Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, I'm highlighting the question I asked on March 25th about the federal government's position regarding the Black civil servants lawsuit, where claimants have courageously come forward to expose the wrongdoing and systemic discrimination they face throughout their careers. In the weeks since I asked that question, we have learned that over the years, some public servants were offered money to keep quiet and withdraw racial discrimination complaints. It's never easy to confront racism. It should be uncomfortable. We cannot ask people to push aside their injustice to sweep things under the rug. This is gaslighting. We cannot ask them to be silent, and we cannot be complicit with our own silence. My goal tonight is not to place blame or to wag my finger. Rather, it is to better understand exactly what this government is doing to fight systemic racism. I wish to be a partner in this work. I wish to highlight the incredible voices from my riding and from the Maritimes that are changing the conversation and driving real actions in my home community. We are not coming to a sudden realization that Canada has a problem with racism. People of color, Black and Indigenous people have been telling us for so long that our society, our institutions, our collective behaviors and biases continue to cause harm, even kill. And so far, the performative gestures from the government are accomplishing nothing. In just the last few weeks, I have read the following headlines. The RCMP is losing Indigenous officers, and some former Mounties blame racism in the ranks. The Nova Scotia government balked at paying for extra RCMP during the fisheries conflict, where Mi'kmaq fishers were attacked, their possessions set on fire, and their catches destroyed. That the Army strategies to promote diversity and inclusion were ineffective. Temporary migrant workers working in fields across the country, helping to ensure our food sovereignty, are working in unsanitary and dangerous conditions, living in overcrowded rooms, some sleeping on the floor. Symbolism does not target the root cause of the problem. Canada must institute specific reparations and strategic actions with measurable outcomes. I know that my colleague will point to the implementation of the Anti-Racism Secretariat, and I'm thankful for that division, and I'm fully in appreciation for the Minister and her commitment. However, this would be the time to let Canadians know about the concrete work being undertaken to dismantle systems of oppression. And I would argue that there should be a full ministerial department dedicated to the mission of anti-racism. Many Canadians do not even have a basic understanding of what racism is, how it operates, what gives it power. Some still debate its existence and shy away from comparison with our neighbors to the south. Our children must learn the critical thinking skills to ask tough questions, challenge narratives, and deconstruct the lies that support white supremacy. We are told that change is slow, that these things take time. As a suggestion, if I may, Madam Speaker, perhaps we could listen to the Black voices showing us the way right here, right now. The class action lawsuit seeks long-term solutions to permanently address systemic racism and discrimination in the public service of Canada, which would undoubtedly create ripple effects across the communities. Damages include the wrongful failure to promote, intentional infliction of mental suffering, constructive dismissal, wrongful termination, negligence, and in particular, violations of employment law, human rights law, and charter breaches. In the fulfillment of the goal of workplace equality, Canada has failed to correct the conditions of disadvantage in employment experienced by Black Canadians. Will the Anti-Racism Secretariat commit to addressing these specific wrongs? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I just can't thank my honourable colleague and friend from Edmonton from Fredericton enough for her speech and her advocacy on this very, very important topic and subject. I admire her willingness to come out here and always confront difficult topics of conversation, and I share her satisfaction with the fact that we are the first government that has a Minister of Diversity, Inclusion and Youth that does the hard work and commits to the hard work, and the Anti-Racism Secretariat is a good start. But from the start, Madam Speaker, our government has acknowledged that millions of Canadians continue to face systemic racism in different facets of our society, and I too acknowledge that that is not a universally held conviction yet in this House or in this country, and that's an important thing to focus on also. Whether it's going to the store or the bank, applying for a job, or even taking public transit, racialized Canadians have told us in unequivocal terms that racial discrimination is unfortunately still a daily reality here in Canada. Cela est particulièrement vrai pour les Canadiens noirs qui sont confrontés au fléau du racisme systémique envers les personnes noires. Les données dont nous disposons brossent un tableau très sombre de l'impact de ce racisme partout au pays. Nous savons, par exemple, que les Canadiens noirs ont des taux de chômage disproportionnellement plus élevés que les homologues non racistes. Ça, c'est malgré les récentes études de Statistique Canada qui démontrent que les Canadiens noirs âgés de 25 à 15, 4, 11 sont plus susceptibles de tenir un diplôme universitaire que les Canadiens non racistes. Rather than sitting idly by, our government has taken concrete actions to address systemic anti-Black racism. In 2018, we officially recognized the International Day for People of African Descent, which serves to guide the international community in the advancement of human rights and freedoms of Black communities by focusing on recognition, justice, and development. This was then followed by a $44 million investment to advance the objectives of the decade through supporting projects that empower Black youth, address mental health in Black communities, and drive capacity building for Black-led organizations. And Madam Speaker, as the parliamentary secretary on this file, I get to make some of those calls and call these organizations and thank them for their good work and congratulate them on the funding. And I can't tell you how grateful we are as a government, as in a nation, for their extraordinary efforts. Nous avons investi millions de dollars pour lancer la stratégie canadienne de lutte contre le racisme qui fait progresser le leadership fédéral dans la lutte contre le racisme systémique en habilement les communautés et en mettant l'accent sur la sensibilisation et le changement des attitudes. Depuis lors, nous avons travaillé en étroite collaboration avec la Fédération africaine canadienne de l'économie, une organisation d'entrepreneuriat dirigée par des personnes noires pour lancer les fonds de prêt pour l'entrepreneuriat des communautés noires. Un investissement public-privé de 91,3 millions de dollars. Il offrirait un financement allant jusqu'à 4 millions de dollars aux propriétaires d'entreprises et entrepreneurs noirs afin qu'ils puissent développer leur entreprise et réussir maintenant et dans l'avenir. Lastly, Madam Speaker, because our government recognizes the need to remove barriers to achieving a diverse and inclusive workplace, including addressing anti-Black racism, we are investing $12 million to support the Center on Diversity and Inclusion in the public service lodged directly in the Treasury Board Secretariat.
So unfortunately, the honourable member's time is up. I did allow for a little bit of time. I thought maybe he would be wrapping up, but so the honourable member for Fredericton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for his efforts in these adjournment proceedings. It's been a busy night for him. And if you can tell, I'm extremely passionate about anti-racism, and I come to this as a cis white ally. I will never know the full extent of the pain inflicted upon Indigenous peoples, Black peoples, people of color, to us LGBTQIA+, and I live, work, and learn with this immense privilege. During the past weeks, we've been hearing the difficult testimony, trying to piece together the death of Joyce Etchekon. I will not repeat the myriad of insults flung at her by staff who were supposed to care for her while she was fighting for her life. And then, of course, to the 215 little souls whose remains have finally been discovered, there are not enough words in the English language to account for such horrors. These are not dark chapters in Canadian history. These realities are woven throughout the whole story, and the consequences continue to play out today. This is not about guilt, it's about responsibility. Will this government stand up and recognize the immense responsibility we have in addressing racism in all its forms? Will it stand up for the Black civil servants? Will it stand up for Joyce, for all the children who never came home from residential schools? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. And before I go to the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, I would just ask him maybe to put his, for the interpretation, just to maybe to leave it on floor instead, because if the Honourable Member switches from English to French, the interpreters have a hard time hearing and being able to interpret. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thanks for the tip, Madame la Présidente. I would also like to acknowledge my role as an ally in this place, as a white, cisgendered straight man, I've never experienced racism, homophobia, or bigotry in any form, and I do feel like I have a role as an ally to stand up. So I'll try to wrap up quickly so the House may adjourn. We are taking steps to review the Equity Employment Act, particularly in light of comments that it does not address the distinct experiences of Black employees. From the very start, Madam Speaker, our government has shown an unwavering commitment to tackling systemic racism head-on, including anti-Black racism. Les données sont équivoques de sérieux obstacles systémiques persistants et limiter les opportunités pour les communautés noires. Here in Canada, these discrepancies are simply unacceptable. C'est pourquoi depuis 2018, nous avons engagé des investissements de plus de 177 millions de dollars pour appuyer des initiatives qui soutiennent les communautés noires et nous investissons dans les initiatives au sein de la fonction publique fédérale afin de créer un milieu de travail pleinement diversifié et inclusif. Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente.